do you have a messaging strategy specifically about your company's hiring status? Tony, can you kick us off on this one?
Sure. So as soon as, rewinding back that we found out that, the pandemic was much bigger than what was anticipated when we got the notice that everybody was going remote, the very first question that we had to ask the business and ask the business leaders was, are we still hiring? So we had to get that response very quickly because we needed to make sure that we were aligned in our approach moving forward. So thankfully we got the response, yes, we are still hiring. And then the next phase was, okay, we need to make sure that our workforce knows and understands this. So we sent out, a message to the organization saying, yes, we are still hiring. We are shifting the approach. All interviews that normally would have taken place in person will now be taking place via Zoom. And then from there, we developed some helpful resources for hiring managers so that we could set expectations on how interviews are supposed to go via Zoom. So we had to put some instructions together on, set a virtual background. Here are some options of different shots of the office space that you can use. Make sure that you share your camera. It's really important that somebody can see you, that you're present. Make sure that there's no background distractions in your home. We want to make sure that we're giving our candidates the same thought and consideration and at your side philosophy than we would have in person as well. So it's really just been communicating internally first about the status of, yes, we are still hiring, here's the resources and expectations. And then once the workforce had that messaging and all those resources, then that was when we began to deploy it externally.
Yeah. Ryan, as Instacart's shift from being sort of a nice to have business to an essential business, and obviously your business sort of exploding in the 5 weeks, how has your messaging strategy shifted around hiring?
Yeah. So the way that we are working through this is, again, I stay really close with recruiting around the hiring goals that we have and really close with corporate comms. So I sort of sit in between the middle of that. Like, what is our positioning? How do we want to talk about this? Like, we are still hiring, but given the circumstance, it's not exactly like, woo, like, yay, we're hiring. It's kind of like we have to be very conscientious of our tone because it's not like an exciting time or like, it's just like we need to hire because we have a responsibility. And so that's more of the tone that we're taking and that we have to take right now because that's what's happening for us. And then, internally our leaders are talking about it, at the company meetings, like we are still hiring. There's, referral messaging going out. I work really closely again with the head of recruiting and recruiting operations on the candidate experience. What are the digital brochures we're showing people? How can we give a virtual tour? As Tony mentioned, the virtual backgrounds, we're doing little candidate boxes for folks to get when they're doing like their on-site interviews. They're essentially like a long block of interviews that they have. So we're sending them like our Instacart coffee mugs and some things like that to remind them of being in the office since they can't get that. And yeah, I mean, we're also hiring like 300,000, it was the first wave, 300,000 shoppers, or onboarding 300,000 shoppers and then bringing on an additional 250,000 shoppers after that a couple weeks later. And so for us, it's like a lot of partnerships that we also have with, furloughed employees of airlines and other industries too, like bringing them on for our care agents to help support both the shoppers and the customers during these times. So, it's a whole like matrix of different types of hiring that we have to keep a really tight strategy on. So, just making sure that we're communicating that across consumers, shoppers, employees along the way.